Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarita Cucumber and today I'm here to take a look at the new DLC trailer for Life is Strange Wavelengths, a short DLC featuring the fan favourite Steph Gingrich, a D&D nerd turned game designer turned radio host. Deck9 really fed us with this one and there is a lot to discuss, so in the spirit of not wanting to waste time, let's get right into it. I plan on discussing all elements of the trailer in this video, so be warned there may be some minor plot spoilers for Wavelengths ahead. I'll be picking up small details and analysing them, so be warned that I might prod pretty deep and I might even get some things right about what we're expecting in the game itself. And so, if you think you'd be best off playing the game blind, I would recommend you don't watch this video. With that said, let's dive straight in. The trailer opens strong with some form of relevant narration over footage of Steph walking into Haven's record booth. The two seem to be at a job interview, with Steph being interviewed for the position, and suddenly, is that Portugal the Man? Wow, the music budget for this game must be really high. I think that's a good sign of things to come. The interview follows with Steph talking about experiences in voiceovers and radio. Her saying "what haven't I done" seems indicative of a long stance doing this sort of thing, and we get the impression that maybe this isn't Steph's first time at the rodeo, so to speak. Of course, she could be completely bluffing instead, and this is evidenced by the next part. Now, we know that from the Meet Steph video that she went to Seattle to study game design and always found herself drawn to the musical and artistic sides of the career, so it's no surprise this music-oriented thing would be something she'd find herself drawn to. The first scene, which we can assume takes place at the start of the year, has Steph clumsily finding her way around the radio booth for the first time. It's clear that by the events of True Colours, she's found her way around a lot more, but it's very interesting to see someone who's so outwardly confident and snarky having some alone time and just being a dork. Watching Steph work things out for the first time is pretty relatable, and the animation for the first time is able to really capture this super well. The bit where she hits her head on the microphone is funny, and this is because the animation flows so well. It's just a byproduct of having this increased budget and these models that can just support so much emotion and flow. We can see from this shot at the first part of the game that this will take place at the beginning of 2018, right before the Haven Spring Festival, and exactly 1 year before Alex Chen's arrival. But still, whilst Ryan and Gabe and everyone else from Haven are living there, perhaps we'll see some cameos. Speaking of cameos, I do think we're going to get a cheeky Before the Storm reference or two from Steph. It would be criminal not to give us some attachment to Chloe. Maybe a picture of them together on her wall, a chat log on her phone, something like that. I'm looking forward to being able to read through phone messages again after it being a largely underused feature in Life is Strange 2. And of course, a reference to Life is Strange 2 is possible, with the beginning of Wavelengths only being set 6 months or so after the confrontation at the border. While in real life, the story of the Wolf Brothers would have been a worldwide phenomenon, probably with a documentary and a miniseries on a network premiere, I can't see it being so widespread in the Life is Strange universe, especially since it's not really relevant to Haven Springs in the middle of Colorado. I doubt we'll get any kind of Easter eggs in Wavelengths, but we'll see. We see Steph getting settled into her new job. But what's this? If you look closely, you can actually spot a teeny tiny detail of a Pisshead album on one of the shelves. Yes, the same Pisshead started by Skip Matthews, Blackwell's security officer, back in 2010. We know from the original Life is Strange from an article on Chloe's computer that Pisshead went on to be relatively successful in 2013, but their records are still being sold almost 10 years later. I hope that Steph will mention something about this record in particular. It'll be a great throwback. So, we know from this trailer that the DLC will take place over a year, likely with one continuous scene taking place in the record shop, maybe broken up and changing in appearance over time, split into 4 chronological parts. The trailer specifically mentions the word seasons, so we can assume that these will be spring, summer, autumn, and finally winter. Spring seems to be right when Steph settles in, indicated by her jacket and jeans combo, which seems like a bit of a throwback to Chloe's look in Before the Storm. Or is that Rachel's look considering Chloe took her clothes? Anyway, the studio is relatively bare and this seems to be her settling in phase. Next, we have summer, indicated by Steph's turquoise shirt and shorts, as well as ditching her beanie, so the theories about Steph being bald under her hat were wrong, and folks are pointing out that her hair looks very similar to Lila Park from Life is Strange 2. They're not really wrong. The store seems decked out in Pride gear for the end of June, which seems very fitting for Steph's huge gay energy. There are some incredible graphical details in this scene. Check out the drops of sweat on Steph's forehead. It's such a small detail, but it's so cool. Of course, we've seen sweat in Life is Strange 2, for example, but this one is so subtle and it's not really a detail that needed to be shown, but it's very attentive and shows that the DLC has had quite a lot of work put into it. Moving on, we see Steph decked out in purple eyeshadow and some sort of maroon sweater for Halloween, and she's really starting to get into the swing of things. The record store is fully decked out in Halloween gear, and Steph is handling it with ease. She's eager to boast her all-night-long radio show, which is aptly Halloween-themed. Next, we see her New Year party set up with a bobble beanie, a bottle of champagne, which we actually see as a gift from Ryan's father, but we barely get a chance to look before we see the track list. Now, these are some big names being shown here. The budget for True Colours must be incredibly high. We've got Girl in Red, Foles, Alt J, Portugal the Man, Local Natives, Sigur Rós, and Hayley Kiyoko, and many more than those names. We're already being spoiled. Of course, we already heard Feel It Still by Portugal the Man in the trailer, but it's still kind of shocking. I'm a big fan of all of these artists, so I can guarantee that I'll be jamming along with Steph. Next, we see what is likely an indication that the operation of the radio station will likely only be one of Steph's adventures during the course of DLC, and that she'll likely have a few B-plots, as we see here that she's also focusing on personal elements of herself during that time. Her dating profile. It seems that things didn't quite work out with Izzy, her girlfriend mentioned in the Meet Steph video, who I'm sure we'll learn some details about during the course of the game. Now, it's said in that same video that she decided to stay at Haven Springs after a gig with her and Izzy's band, and she fell in love with the town. So I'd imagine the DLC is going to explore some of her reasonings and thoughts behind staying. Now, the official Steam page does also back this up, with the exact wording being, discover more about Steph's past and her relationships as she makes her mark on the record store, uncovers its secrets, and decides her future. So I think this tells us a lot of what we'll be getting ourselves into during the DLC. Steph's new job will be a stepping stone into all kinds of interesting discoveries about what a fan favourite has been up to in the time between Arcadia Bay and Haven Springs. And oh boy, the next thing to be shown was shocking. Mikey fucking North, Steph's high school friend who played D&D with her and Chloe. Mikey's all grown up now and seems to have kept up with his artwork, which has a lovely style to it. They're playing a virtual game of D&D. It doesn't surprise me that Deck 9 would reintroduce this gameplay element, as it was actually one of the highest praised parts of Before the Storm's gameplay, so much so that a second D&D segment was added in the third episode. I'm definitely expecting some references to Elamon and Calanastia, the two characters from Steph's old D&D campaign. After this, Steph is shown walking into a back room, which I imagine is what the Steam page means when it talks about uncovering the secrets of the record store. Perhaps we'll gain an insight into the Rocky Mountain store and how it came to be. This area, interestingly, seems to be set up like a live venue, with an elevated stage and seating area. Is this how we're going to see Steph get back into drums? Perhaps it might become a part of Steph's ambition to renovate the room into a fully fledged live music studio. It would really fit in with how she's already adding new furniture and posters to the rest of the store, and she's really leaving her personal touch on the place. But unfortunately, I can't predict the future, so we're just going to have to wait and find out. A little thing I had noticed though is that this DLC seems to have Steph in quite an isolated position. Of course, we see that she has her virtual D&D with Mikey, and it's likely that we'll see a flashback to her job interview, maybe some text interactions over the phone, but I don't know if we'll get anybody else in the record store during that time. It could end up being quite a step away from True Colours, which is a very social game, and be quite an isolating experience for Steph. Of course, this is when we'll see her true self a lot more, but Life is Strange is a series that thrives on character interaction, so I wonder how Deck 9 plans on filling this gap. But that said, I think I've said my piece with my first impressions in this mini breakdown. What do you think about the trailer for Wavelengths? Is it going the direction you'd hoped, or does it leave a little something to be desired? What do you think of the musical choices? I read all of your comments and use some of them as inspiration for my future videos. Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see some more narrative game content from me. We're releasing weekly videos in the build up to True Colours, and if you're interested, don't touch the dial. I've got plenty more coming your way. With that, leave a like if you enjoyed, remember to keep your cucumbers serrated, and have a nice day. Bye!